is equal between the subjective and the objective. The emphasis is on process rather than product, making things cohere, develop, grow. Inner space being as important as outer space. Seeing things as constellations rather than as discrete linear facts. The male and female joining together at a higher level is a beginning to affect everything. We're in the time of utter change, whole system transition at every level, and we are part of it. And that's why the change in us, the transitions that we make, with the help of this course as well as your conscious life, can profoundly make a difference.
Wonderful, Jean. So do you have an example about one of your students who had this shift in the true nature of reality?
Well, as you asked that, James, I'm thinking about Evelyn. That's not her real name. She's actually gotten to be very well known as a result of what happened, but we'll call her Evelyn. Evelyn had interest in 3D printing, which is, as you know, is a field that is growing exponentially. And there was a job being offered. It was a very high-level job, which would take the person all over the world, especially in Asian countries, particularly in China, being able to bring new gifts of understanding and morality to the whole field of 3D printing. Now, the problem was, though she was new to the field of 3D printing, and there were many, many much better qualified people, I think almost all men, by the dozens and dozens who were ahead of her for this job. But she knew, as a result of the work that we were doing, she knew that she was right, that the universe and she were together in the manifestation of this job. So I gave her a practice which I call the terma. Now, terma is a term which was used by Padmasambhava, who brought Buddhism to Tibet in the 8th century. And he created what he called these hidden treasures, which he called termas, that were part of his more esoteric teachings. And he hid them in lakes, and he hid them in rivers, and he hid them in mountains, and he hid them in his disciples' minds, and he hid them in the past, and he hid them in the future. And that's the way the story goes. And so when a person was right, they would come upon the terma, and this treasure of understanding or experience would manifest in their lives. So I began to turn it into a modern Western form. And what I did was have her create out of the quantum field. She was there essentially being there, calling up the juice and the power of the quantum field that then became coalesced in her hand as the terma of her getting this job and performing it beautifully. It wasn't just getting the job. And within, I think it was about a week and a half, out of all possibility, she got this job and has done an extraordinary job of this all over the world. But it wasn't just this job that she got. It was her very nature had moved into a belief in the miraculous universe and how she can work with it in many other ways, and she's taught other people how to do this. So that I am going to be teaching people how to create and use the termas in the quantum field, and this interdependent co-arising between the universe and yourself, and being able to work in past, present, future time to plant the desired intention in a way that brings this subtle but profound manifestation into time.
Wow. So, Jean, this is extraordinary. So, actually, what happened to her then? What was the results of her getting the job?
Well, the results of her getting the job was that not only did she travel all over the world introducing a higher moral practice in 3D printing and also refine the very nature of 3D printing, but she is now highly respected all over the world. She is the spokesman for this, as I say, this creative, compassionate, moral form that is counteracting a lot of the sort of corporate greed aspects of those who really just want to see it in a kind of greedy, aggrandizing way. She has changed the flavor of she's changed the flavor of 3D printing. And she has now become a leading spokesman and is on the cover of magazines, and she's the main speaker at conferences. So the quantum field is not simply about ordinary manifestation, it's about appropriate, creative, compassionate, goodly intentions turning into goodly acts.
Beautiful. So it's really interesting to hear her story, especially in context for those listening right now, to put themselves in the same shoes of what's actually going to possibly arise here, what the potential is for every person listening, and the ripple effect really that has on the globe if we are all kind of stepping up to this bigger aspect of ourselves. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Let's move on then, Jean, to the next key, because this is really great. And the first, again, being to gain true clarity about the nature of reality. What is the second key? How do we move forward, again, with unlocking these quantum powers?
The second key is living a new story in your life, which is a story that is a life beyond the old limitations, into a life of wonder and astonishment. In fact, if we go back to the allegory of Plato's cave, the person who is set free and taken from the cave out into the light is immediately blinded by the brightness of the light and is thrown into a kind of shock because he or she is experiencing what reality is really like. There is another story there. You're no longer seeing the shadow of things, but then you begin to see the reflections in the water, and finally you begin to see the things themselves. And in the same way, once you be able to see the true nature of reality, then what happens is that you are open to a whole new story of possibility that you never dreamed of before. Not just possibility, but a kind of prescience and acuteness of awareness, so that your discernment becomes remarkable, and you choose the right people, the right things, and you are so chosen. So you're able to see not just the true nature of reality, but you are also able to bring the truer nature of reality into the everyday parts of your life. I think, for example, of one of my students, John, and John had been in an important field having to do with nuclear waste, and he had taken 7 years off to spend time, raising his 3 children with his wonderful wife. And then it was time that he engage a new profession, and he didn't want to go back to the same one. So he came upon a new profession that would, in order to start it, would cost $200 million. Okay? $200 million. Well, I taught him a process in which he accessed the optimal quantum potential for who he was as a very fine businessman, to bring a whole new order of clearing waste, storing things, being able to make order in people's lives. It had in part to do with storage systems, but it also had to do with bringing clarity into people, and to be able to have just the right people together to be able to bring this bringing of getting rid of wastes, finding new forms of developing products that were environmentally safe. I mean, it was that whole general area. But he knew that to get it going, he would need $200 million. So I got him into a state in which he not only released all his old feelings, but also his old ways of doing his profession, which had been smart and straight on and rather linear and, struggling through. And suddenly it became light, it became easy, it became necessary, because it was important. He was part of the world system, whole system transition. I mean, Hegel writes about world historical individuals, people whose particular passion corresponds to the passion and the turning of the times, and out in front or behind the scenes, they become the entrepreneurs of progress. So we got him into a state in which he became an entrepreneur of progress and utterly aligned to the Earth's needs, the universe's tasks for him. And it became so real, that he knew that he would receive whatever he needed. And 2 days later, out of nowhere, he was offered $200 million to do his work. And he has gone on, it's now a year and a half since that happened, and he has gone on to create really remarkable, environmentally helpful enterprises that are flourishing.
Wow. Jean, this is extraordinary. So I want to articulate something here, because I'm hearing something. This is much different than just the law of attraction or just manifesting.
Yeah. It isn't about attracting what you want. It's partnership. It is that you don't just live in the universe. The universe is living within you and is longing for you to wake up to your place in this incredible time and place, and to have the resources and to have the genius of higher orders of manifestation. So it isn't attracting a new car or attracting the right girlfriend. It really is about partnering the universe as a transformational agent in a time and place that deeply needs you.
And it feels so much more fulfilling than just accumulating stuff.
Yeah.
And being driven by just desire. It feels so. It's like what we're almost like here to do is live our destiny, our perspective, our energy can really be fully self-expressed here in the universe as a unique individual, right?
Yes, indeed, and that's why I call it second-order destiny, second Genesis, because it is, again, you are in a higher operating system. Our operating system has changed, and you are not simply a person who is in a state of desire for a particular thing or the other. You are part of universal mind itself that is working with you, the human agent, the human extension of itself, for what is deeply needed in this space and time.
But what's so interesting about this, Jean, is like this gets to the root of what we all want. Ultimately, it isn't the stuff. That's just the means to the end. But what you're talking about is that true, deep fulfillment of being human and fully expressing who we are in our uniqueness and being in symphony with the rest of the world and attracting the harmony around us, the people around us in such a powerful way. That's what's so deeply fulfilling. It's not the surface stuff.
This is what we're all about, my friend. We're going beneath the surface, because beneath the surface crust of consciousness, as beneath the surface crust of almost anything, is the magma, is the energy, is that which is yearning to enter into time. And we become co-creators, and we open the portals through our mind and our imagination to bring through the next phase, the next step, what is trying to be manifest.
Beautiful. This is fantastic. So it's, we've shifted our perception of reality. Now we've really cracked open the egg here, and we've turned away from the shadows, and we've actually faced 3D, color, full spectrum, high definition, the world. What's next for us then in the journey? What is the third key to unlocking your quantum powers?
Well, I would call it living in the light, living in the expectation that this higher creative, co-creative form is the way the universe works. Now, when we go back to Plato's cave, we find that even though you're just out of the cave, you must not turn away from the light, no matter how bright and overwhelming it is. So you begin to see the truth and access your core strength. And you begin to realize that you are, in fact, the light itself. I mean, who is it? One of the great physicists, David Bohm, I believe, who says we are frozen light. Well, you begin to unfreeze. You access that light. And it's as easy as opening your eyes to see or your mouth to speak. And that awareness that you are the light is the root of your quantum powers and holds all the great patterns that guide your creativity and your growth